Welcome, welcome. So, welcome to this week's Attune for the week of, what are we on? This is June 22nd to July 2nd. No, June 9th, 29th. And we are just fresh on the heels of the summer solstice. And the more I look at the summer solstice astrology, the more I realize I keep saying this is like the introverted, extroverted summer because summer is typically more extroverted, but we start with this grand water trine, which is the sun and the moon and Jupiter in a trine. And then Venus is also in a conversation with Neptune. And it's just like water, 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 water. And so it's about getting into the flow. And everybody knows that when you really are in the flow, you're connected to everything, including your internal world. And so to be able to have such a beautiful presence with whatever is inspiring you, there's like that internal presence that then guides everything. And the moon happens to be in Scorpio. Gotta love the Scorpio moon. I know people that are like, oh, I just need to have an alarm on my phone that tells me every time the moon is in Scorpio because it explains so much. But when we look at that, the moon in Scorpio means I think it will be kind of a deeply transformative summer, setting the precedence for the summer. And then the Jupiter in Pisces is really helping us to dissolve some of our differences. I think maybe not like externally as much as internally, because Jupiter is now retrograde. And if we can start by dissolving some of our differences internally, it will help us externally. And I think that summer just has that feel good vibe that wants people to get along. I don't know. I always feel like I just want to get along with people better in the summer. Does anybody else feel that? Maybe I'm projecting now on the astrology. Like, why can't we just have fun, guys? Let's just have fun. And gals and humans. But Nadia wanted to talk about the Mercury retrograde because it's stationing direct today at 3 o'clock today. And since that's really the first big thing in the astro this week, and actually the moon is now officially in Sagittarius, but why don't you start, Nadia, since she's got
Awesome.
some good advice for you all. Go on ahead.
Hi, YouTube. um, okay, cool. So I wanted to start off talking about something that I mentioned last session that I think will bring so much, especially for those of us, including myself, right, that are lost, that are like, okay, I've had all these downloads, I've had all this information, what do I do next? Okay. I'm going to go through each sign and each rising to tell you to sort of pose some questions and where you go. But I want to tell you about Mercury cycles. So just like the moon has cycles and the sun has cycles, Mercury has cycles as well. And the Mercury cycle starts during and this is such a horrible name for it because that's just, sometimes astrology has bad names, is the inferior Mercury Sun conjunction. So that's usually happens, it happens in the Mercury retrograde. So on June 10th, which we also had the eclipse and and the portal energy, everything was opening up, we had the Mercury Sun conjunction. So it was the beginning of a new Mercury cycle. And each Mercury cycle is about kids on summer vacation. Each Mercury cycle is about 116-ish days, give or take, about 4 days, right? So this Mercury cycle lasts from June 10th to October 9th, which is when we have the next Mercury Sun conjunction inside of a retrograde. So Mercury cycles are really great for a few things. It's great for starting 4-month-long projects, knowing that you have usually have 3 Mercury cycles a year. And it's good if you're trying to plot out your life. Okay, this is the time that I do this. This is the time that I do this. This is the time to do this, especially if you're Mercury ruled, right? If you are a Virgo rising or a Gemini rising, or you have a Mercury stellium in somewhere, Mercury ruled stellium somewhere, or like a Mercury house, like the third house or the sixth house gets getting a lot of activation, you're really going to want to pay attention to Mercury cycles. But honestly, anyone can pay attention to the Mercury cycle because it's so, 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 so helpful. So in the first quarter of the Mercury cycle, remember it's 4-ish months, this is when we're spending time observing. So we've been doing that since June 10th, right? We've been observing, like, how do we feel? We're gathering insight. We're still in the retrograde. We're reviewing. And then when we get to the second quarter, which is give or take a few days around July 10th, this is when we're testing out our thoughts and our ideas. And this is when Mercury really, really speeds up. This is when we get that fast acting Mercury to like play around, you know, this, you're not holding tight or too tight to anything. You're saying, okay, well, you know, if I'm looking for my next like, there's one period of time where I was getting certified like every 3 months, which kind of falls with the Mercury cycle. You're like, what's my next certification? What am I doing now? Like reading this, researching that, going to this thing, going to that thing, right? This is the time when you sort of see what works, see what doesn't, test it out. As they say in marketing, A/B testing. You're trying to figure out what works. In the third quarter, that's when you start building. So if you're like, I want to build up my spiritual business, I want to, like Beverly had the question, work with women and children, or that's what I said in her reading. So she's kind of trying to think about it. In the next 2 months, you're going to think of like, you're going to observe like how you're feeling about it. It's okay to be lost, right? I'm kind of answering a little bit of your question here. And when July 10th starts, you're going to start testing stuff out, maybe like going into your group of people, asking them what they think about it. Then August 10th rolls around and you start building on your idea. You start saying, okay, well, I've put all the pieces there and now I'm going to start building on it. I'm going to put the website out. I'm going to, you know, I'm going to start teaching classes. I'm going to figure out like what is working here. And then the fourth cycle of the Mercury cycle, we are completing because we're moving into a new retrograde. So we're completing whatever we started before. And now if you don't have to be completely complete, do you know what I mean by that? It can be like, this is the first part of this project. And then when you get to October 9th, this is when the next Mercury cycle starts. So you've completed, but maybe you need to add more to it. So then you spend another month like thinking about it, gathering insights from what you did before. So you can keep going in those 4-month Mercury cycles. That means coming out of Mercury retrograde, you're not just coming out of Mercury retrograde and like slam like right into the world. You actually have time to integrate. So this is what my quote unquote Mercury retrograde horoscopes are centered in, is like integration, because we're coming out of that Mercury retrograde in Gemini, how it's hitting a specific house for you, and then it's going to slip into Mercury is going to go into Cancer on July 11th, meaning that it's integrating into a different house. And then it's only there in Cancer for about 16 days and then goes straight into Leo. So you're only going to have 16 days in Cancer to sort of fully process not fully process, fully is not the right word, but to process or to shift out of what you've been reviewing, remembering, revising, reintegrating in the Mercury retrograde cycle. Just because Mercury retrograde ends doesn't mean we're done with the lessons that we need to learn from it. So starting with Gemini or Gemini rising, these are questions that I'm going to ask. If you're going into the Mercury retrograde closing ceremony, I'm going to ask these all over again. I'm going to copy paste them. So if you're in that, you'll hear it again. Gemini or Gemini rising, what core truths have you learned to communicate about yourself and who you are to the world? Are you ready to actualize those core truths? Are you ready to materialize them? And are you ready to make a foundational, make what you've learned about yourself in this period of time a foundational part of your personality, and then turn it into a value-driven passion? So if you're Gemini or Gemini rising, you've just decided this is my new archetype for the next 4 months. Are you going to what are you turning it into? Or if you're Taurus or Taurus rising, in what ways during Mercury retrograde have you discovered the value and the worth in what you have to say to the world, or on a more intimate level, the people around you? Do your words make you or others feel safe? And now that you've established the worth of your message, is there anything more that you need to learn, classes you can take, or anything else in your local community that will help you master these practical ideas or re-strategizing on that level? Aries or Aries rising, have you been able to really review how you talk to others? Literally the way you talk to them, the words you choose, the tone of your voice, the thoughts behind the words. And once you've understood your voice, are you prepared to now move out of the intellectual space and into the more emotional and intimate realm with people, starting with your family, dealing with any issues that are there with your family? Is there anything you need to communicate to your family without anger or bitterness? Then we have Pisces or Pisces rising. Have you found comfort in the messages of your family or your ancestors? Have you been able to communicate what makes you feel emotionally stable? If you haven't been able to communicate that with people that are close to you, whether it's like your literal blood family or your soul family, have you healed some of the shadow wounds on how you were talked to growing up? And then therefore how you talk to yourself. And when you're done moving through this, how can you turn everything you went through into inspiration or creativity? Or allow the inner child to sort of speak now. The adults is finding all the healing resources about what happened in the family and how things were communicated. And then the inner child is going to come out and say, okay, well, this is what I need now. For Aquarius or Aquarius rising, have you enjoyed speaking from your heart in this time? Have you been leaning into joy? Have you been leaning into passion and creativity? Have you been finding ways to bring happiness into your connections with people, and most of all yourself? Can you now turn this happiness that you've developed, or this joy, or this new passionate expression, whatever it is, can you turn it into a daily routine? Can you experience it every day of your life, right? For Capricorn or Capricorn rising, have you been able to change the language on how you move through life every day? Have you become less critical and more flexible, more go with the flow so that you don't burn yourself out to be perfect? And then once you've established these healthy ways that you can take care of business and move through your day-to-day life, you're now ready to connect deeper with your loved ones or your lovers and spend some time with them. Just let yourself be taken care of for once. Sagittarius or Sagittarius rising, have you been changing your language on how you deal with your long-term partner or those that you're in a contractual relationship with? Meaning, have you let go of some of your dogmatic ideologies and actually listened to the other person in your life, realizing that no one is perfect in a relationship, including yourself? Once you've done that, are you prepared to go even deeper with it? Maybe are you prepared to go to a therapist, talk to a psychologist? Are you prepared to have the tougher conversations so that both people in this relationship can come out empowered? For Scorpio or Scorpio rising, have you spent this time tuning into both your spacious intuition and into your fears? Like, have you had the tough conversations about the things that make you feel scared, like death or ego transformation or the end of the world or lack of resources or whatever it is? Like, what shadowy things have been going on in your mind? And now that you're moving through that, right? We're not completely out of it, but now that you're moving through that, are you ready to then find a higher wisdom from it all and transcend some of your baseline fears and explore with all that you've learned? Like, live life to the fullest, cement your spiritual practices, learn even more about astrology that will help with these fears. Libra or Libra rising, have you spent this time reviewing your philosophies, your ideologies, coming up with new ways of thinking or new philosophies? Have you let go of any mindsets that are holding you back from seeing the big picture? Or have you are you tuning into your deepest inner wisdoms? Did you get the opportunity during Mercury retrograde to guide other people into more transcendent mindsets or transcendent ways of thinking? And if you did, now are you ready to turn this into the legacy that you leave behind for others? For Virgo or Virgo rising, have you been able to do something of meaning in your career during Mercury retrograde, or to create something that you would be proud to leave behind? Have you been able to review what next steps you would need to take to get to even beyond this level and to the next level? And if you have done that, are you ready to reach out to your network to find your perfect platform and work with the collective to co-create and manifest your dreams? Leo and Leo rising, have you taken time to talk and connect to more people around you, to make new friends who don't know the old you and are here to meet the most vibrant and yet thoughtful you that exists? If you have had issues with your friends or peer groups during Mercury retrograde, have you gotten into meaningful conversations about why those issues may be? And if so, are you also prepared to sit quietly and listen within yourself to see how you might be contributing to certain dynamics, to take a little retreat and then come back realigned to your soul's purpose and message? And then lastly, of Cancer and Cancer rising, have you been able to quiet some of the voices in your head and instead go into the realm of dreams or psychic intuition to get your message? Have you trusted what you have been hearing from your guides? And most of all, have you taken time out to just talk to yourself, to develop your own internal language, to rewrite some of your subconscious beliefs and surrender the old language? And if so, are you ready to communicate to the world who you are and why you are here? So that is the Mercury retrograde transition horoscopes. Again, if you're going to the Mercury retrograde closing ceremony, I'm going to reread these and then copy paste it into that Discord. So let me know if any of you specifically want me to copy paste this in yours specifically in the chat for you. And otherwise, thank you. It's your turn, Jana.
Thanks, Nadia. I love that. Mine is so bang on with my life. It's ridiculous. Astrology blows my mind. And I sometimes wonder if I'm projecting because I know what the astrology says, or if it's really that aligned. And then I forget to check the astrology for a little while and I'm like, no, it's really that aligned. So after today, tomorrow, we have actually 3 things that are quite favorable energetically. We have the Sun trine Jupiter, which is one of my favorite aspects in all of astrology. Anytime the Sun and Jupiter, even a Sun Jupiter square is pretty okay, because Jupiter wants what's good for you. You know, Jupiter and Venus are benefic planets, they're called. On the same day, we have Venus trine Pluto. And so I want to talk about them together. And on the same day, we have Saturn sextile Chiron. And so when we look at all of this, rather than breaking them down into little pieces, it's a bit of a story of like, you recognize what's good for you. You see the way the universe is conspiring to help you, like follow your dreams or become more of who you are or expand your radiance. And the ability to let go what's not yours is so apparent, because when Pluto and Venus are trine each other, Pluto, which is typically we think of as like not the best planet to have aspecting anything, when it's a trine and it's Venus, it's saying like, hey, let me just help you. Like, this relationship, not good. You see it, it's clear. You're not reading the same newspaper. It's not a fit anymore, or whatever it is, you know, and so it can be really helpful. And with Saturn sextile Chiron, it can really help you to see some of the ways in which boundaries can be really helpful at this time. And so there's that theme of like expanding your radiance, releasing what's not yours. And so I almost, you know, a lot of times, if anybody's done any training with me, I always say one of the most important things you do for your intuition is learn what's yours and what somebody else's. And that doesn't mean that we cut ourselves off from empathy or compassion or being able to be with somebody else, but we don't need to process the world's emotions. And so we can have empathy and we can have compassion for the world, but we don't need to carry the burden of the world. And I think that's really what this is saying. Like, recognize what's yours, leave the rest. Because there is also something in the collective right now where there is a levity, you know, wherever you sit on any kind of divisive topic, there's a levity right now, unless you're really, 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 really tangled in fear. And if that's the case, your work is to untangle yourself from fear. Okay. I keep saying that again and again and again and again and again, but like, it can't be said enough. Right? And so once you untangle yourself from fear, then you're able to see the opportunities that are being presented to everybody, regardless of your belief system, regardless of if you think it's the end of the world or you think the world is just beginning. There's levity right now. And so I love this week in the astrology. And then we have on Thursday is the Capricorn full moon. And the Capricorn full moon, I mean, always I feel like since the Saturn Pluto conjunction, I've really been reinforcing every time I can that Capricorn is a feminine sign. And part of this Pluto Saturn conjunction is the reclamation of the feminine nature of Capricorn, because Capricorn gets this curmudgeon-y, well, it kind of is, but in a feminine way. But it kind of gets this bad rap. But what I see with Capricorn, when you look at Capricorn through a feminine, it's like the seeds are so deep inside of us. The seeds sit at the bottom of the ocean, and we need to open ourselves to the bottom of the ocean so that we can understand the peak of the mountain, because it's the sea goat. And when we really lean into what the Capricorn expression is from a feminine perspective, it actually allows us to be far more efficient, because if you understand through open receptivity of understanding your path and purpose, you can stop messing around with everybody else's path and purpose and just get down to your own business, and everything else can just be released. And I'll get into this a little bit more as we get closer. I'll probably do like an Instagram live or something like that just to go in deeper. But I think this Capricorn full moon, what I really think good medicine would be is that we've all been climbing this giant mountain. Like we've all, like, over the last 15 or so months, we've been climbing this, maybe longer, this giant mountain. And here we are at the Capricorn full moon. And I want you to like sit at the top of your mountain and look at what you have accomplished over the last year. Like, life is very different. And again, I keep repeating, we need to slow down enough that we can integrate and catch up to the transformation that we've all been through, because the transformation is happening on such a deep level that if we're fighting our old story, we're fighting a battle that's already done. The stories are changing so quickly. And so, like, put down your weapons to the story that was, so that you could open your heart to the story that is. Right? And if we can stand on the top of our own mountain, like summit our own mountain, and look back and be like, holy smokes, I actually kind of rock. I overcame this. I built this. I let go of this. My perspective shifted in this way, and shift up the way that you see your life, and actually give yourself a pat on the back, because Capricorn loves achievement. Right? Capricorn loves, what's the word I'm looking for? Ambition, right? Capricorn likes to be the king of the castle, or the CEO, or the boss. They like to be the authority. And so just look at the ways that you've owned your life, because especially for those that have been following the astrology, it has been this ongoing theme of trusting your inner authority. And even if you're not all the way there trusting your inner authority, can you celebrate the little ways that you are? Like, I trust this now in myself. I know my capability is like this now. Like I have faced this kind of adversity, and I know that I'm capable of doing hard things. To quote Glennon Doyle, with "You can do hard things," and so that's a bit of the medicine of the Capricorn full moon. But like I said, I'll give you guys a little. I'll give everybody a little bit more probably through an IG live, and then Friday. Pull out your dream journal because we have Neptune stationing retrograde. And Neptune is the planet that really helps us to dive into our subconscious mind. So that's the realm that we enter in the Yoga Nidra practice. It's the realm of our dreams. It's the psychic realm. It's quite transformative, really, when you really do your Neptune work. Because if we're looking at the deep subconscious mind, and even though we typically give beliefs to Sagittarius, I don't really see that it's a lot different than Pisces, which is the natural ruler of, or Neptune is the natural ruler of Pisces, because Pisces is where it's like, it's the deep subconscious mind. It's like the origin of the belief. And so if we do go into this deep dive into our Neptune work, you can reprogram some of these deep belief systems that hold you back from your excellence or from your most exalted expression in this incarnation. So I really like that Thursday or Friday part of me that's happening, the Neptune retrograde. Now, the only thing that I want to mention about that as well, along with it, is that Neptune retrogrades every year. Same with Pluto, same with Uranus. We don't really go into it the same way that we do Mercury or Venus or Mars. But this is a generational planet. And so lots of times in these generational planets, Pluto's retrograde right now as well, when they retrograde, the work is internal, but also it's often so deep that we don't recognize it in the moment. It's so deep. It's like the other day this is so silly, but I sat down. My husband was working on something and he wanted me to listen to him. And lots of times when we share an office space working from home, and he'll get my attention, and I just want him to finish what he's saying so that I can get back to work, because I know as soon as those kids are home, there's no, mom does not get to work. Dad does, mom doesn't. That's just the way it goes. Unless dad takes the kids out of the house because I've got the milk. That's, and so I always am just like, okay, hurry up and say what you need to say. And I sat there and I kicked my feet up on a stool, and with nowhere to go and nothing to do, a phrase that I've been saying in the Yoga Nidra practice for 7-8 years, I actually felt that in my walking, waking life. And I sat there and he was stumbling over what he wanted to share with me as he's like searching for a website or whatever it was. And it was the greatest feeling of satisfaction ever, that I could sit there without anything needing to change. And it might have only been 15 seconds, but that 15 seconds was so magical. And that happened because of the deep work that's been happening behind the scenes, slowly and consistently, defragging my system of this anxious, got to get everything done. I'm a quadruple Virgo. I've got so much Virgo on my chart. That's like always go, 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 never rest. Right. And to actually sit there and be in just a restful state, it was, I don't know, I'll remember that moment. And that's the kind of work that happens in behind the scenes, where you don't recognize it until it becomes relevant all of a sudden when these generational planets are retrograde. So, and of course, always with these things, the more we get into the flow with it, the more it works on us. Just like if you're doing a yoga pose and you focus on your breath, it changes the strength of the posture because you've added that other layer to it. And so this is a great summer to do dream work. This is a great summer to be in your Yoga Nidra practice. In the summer solstice retreat that we just did, David Kennett did a quantum sound journey. And like, I'm going to redo that thing over the summer, all like nonstop, because it was just so profound. And then Saturday we have good old Mars sextile the North Node. And Mars is in Leo, so Mars is loud and proud right now. Mars is like big. I'm Mars in Leo. I'm big, my energy is just like the biggest in the room sometimes. That's what Mars is. And it's sextiling your North Node. And so this weekend, there's this beautiful energy. Well, and also Venus moves into Leo as well. So Venus and Mars are getting closer together. Well, Mars is sextiling the North Node. And so there's maybe this beautiful, loud and proud energy giving you some clues on like which direction to go for your path and purpose, which is so liberating and awesome. And then it's kind of chill till the end of the month. Like, I don't even know if we need to do this next week. Oh yeah, we do, because it gets exciting on the 1st again. But for the most part, we've got this really nice week. This is such a nice week in the astrology. We've had so much turbulence, and I really encourage listening, resting, feeling, integrating, whatever arises, let it arise. Know that it's impermanent. That arising of emotions is just like as the waves come into shore, it cleanses the shore, and so we just let those waves come in because it's doing its job of helping you integrate right now. We're just catching up with ourselves. And now it's summer, and it's the introverted, extroverted summer. And so we have to, I love that even the astrology is setting the tone of like, I'm going to go easy on you. Just let yourself feel it. Let yourself have it. The world is weird, but it's going to be better. Although Nadia shared an awesome meme the other day. She was like, my favorite conspiracy theory is that everything's going to be okay. And I was like, hey, there's one that we can all get along. We can all agree on. But I really do. I'm like the forever optimist that says that even in the suffering, there is purpose behind it. Even in the struggle, we're growing, we're being reformed. And I really do believe that. So that's the astrology for this week. We end the week with the moon in Pisces. The moon in Pisces always is a little bit emo. So we might have a little bit of an emotional week, but that's okay. Be emotional. What's wrong with emotions? Especially because we've got this Leo energy in there. That's like, be dramatic. Let yourself be dramatic. It's okay. So I love how Nadia pulled the quote, and now I don't have the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of like, we are, what was it, Nadia, for the newsletter this week? The millions of stardust were made of millions of specks of stardust or something like this.
Oh, I don't know. I think I might have wrote that.
You might have wrote it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like the recognition of just the vastness and the here, I actually have it right here. You are millions and trillions of stars.
Oh, I wrote that.
Yeah, you wrote that right. There you go.
But that's a common sentiment.
Yeah.
It's a common sentiment.
And so I think this week we get to remember that we are everything and nothing all at the same time. So whatever's arising is perfect. Do you have anything else you want to add to the week ahead, Nadia? Or should we jump into some readings?
Let's jump into some readings.
Okay, cool. If you're joining us on YouTube, we're going to say goodbye to you here. But if you want to join us live, we do these on Tuesdays at noon PST over at Attune to the Moon. And for those that are staying on the call, we do mini readings. And so people get to submit their chart with questions, and then we do little mini readings. So we'll see you next week, hopefully.